Yeah. We talked a bit about the investment community and its appetite for genetic therapies.
Yeah.
Like I said, given that so much of the nucleus of activity in this space has been in ultra rare, what's different? Sort of compare and contrast for me. What's different in terms of your approach to the partner and investment community in broader indications
Yeah.
than what, these small, like ultra rare indication developers are experiencing. Is there a difference? I mean,
Well, so we've had a receptive audience from the investment community, just like we have from the pharma community, because again, we're doing things, we're solving problems that exist. And certainly just like pharma companies, some are into rare diseases, some are not, some are into broader diseases. There's investors that have a thesis in each camp. And so, everybody, they have to be focused on where they invest, so they can't invest in everything.
sure.
But it's been a receptive conversation. I think, even the rare disorders, I mean, look at a company like Sarepta and the success they've had. I just saw that they announced that they're performing ahead of their plan in the commercial uptake of their product. All that creates great momentum for the types of things we do.
Mm-hmm.
And while there have been challenges in CNS, even I'm sorry, not in CNS, in gene therapy on the commercialization side, in the CNS part of gene therapy, there's been some good successes with, Avexis, now Novartis, and Zolgensma, and Sarepta, and what they're doing with Elvetis. And we think we're going to have similar success, even in the rare population, and certainly in the broader population with the neurodegeneration program.
Yeah. Yeah. You've talked a bit about what Capsida is doing to change the paradigm in gene therapy, and you bear a responsibility to do that, apparently. What do you see across the greater landscape? Like what does the rest of the, I don't mean to, make it an us versus them kind of thing, but from your perspective, what does the rest of the field need to do to bring gene therapy back to the development stage that it needs to be at, right?
Yeah, I think the field needs to be more selective about, what indications we're pursuing, what technology use. Like I said, certain diseases, it's perfectly fine to use AAV-based therapies because you can easily get to certain tissues. But for those, more difficult tissues to get to, like the brain, and like many other organs, I mean, the kidney has biological barriers, the lung has biological barriers, the eye has biological barriers. So just being, smart about the indications, being smart about the delivery technology that's being used, and then of course cargo and things like that. But I really think that again, I'm quite hopeful that with some of the successes that are happening, particularly in some of the CNS gene therapies that I mentioned, but also the progress we're making, and quite frankly, others are making as well, I think will help, I hope, but I think will help to restore some of the momentum and enthusiasm. Because at the end of the day, it's undeniable the benefit that gene therapies can have for patients if they're done right. I mean, if you have a clear genetic cause of a disease, and you can fix that genetic cause, whether it be through a gene therapy or, a gene editing approach, those are disease modifying and possibly curative. So the power is undeniable. These aren't symptomatic treatments, like, in our Parkinson's program. I mean, levodopa is so critical, but eventually it wears out. I mean, it's a symptomatic treatment. What we're trying to do is alter the course of the Parkinson's caused by the GBA mutation. That's just so powerful. And I think there's a lot of companies that understand that. That's why there's many that are still quite engaged in gene therapy. And there's a lot of investors that see that. So then it's incumbent upon us and others to deliver on that promise. And that's why we exist.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the greater gene therapy landscape in CNS disorders look like? Is it a competitive space? Do you find a lot of people working there, or people moving toward CNS?
Yeah, I think there are people working in it, certainly. I think, again, the unmet need, the problems that exist are undeniable. So it's certainly attracted some interest. I'm quite proud of where we're at, and the programs that we have are all have the potential to be best in class. Again, we're about to be in the clinic. And so, I'm a believer, like I think competition brings the best out of people. They don't fear competition. That's, the old saying is the best thing that ever happened to Coke was Pepsi. And so there is something about having, all boats rise when a couple of members are in a category and are working together, maybe not together, but are working towards solving problems. It just brings a little bit of vigilance and a little extra something from all of us. But I wish, anybody who's in this space, I want the whole field to succeed, because again, it'll bring momentum back to the field. It'll, bring more investors in. It'll bring even more pharma companies in, and ultimately it'll just help more patients. So that's how I kind of think about the competition in the field.
Yeah. Give us a snapshot of where Capsida is today in terms of that march toward the clinic.
Yeah. So, we're very much in execution mode to get ready for our IND filings. We've done all the IND enabling work that needs to be done for those two programs. We've had pre-IND meetings with the FDA. We've done dose range finding studies. We've dosed our GLP tox studies. And we've done manufacturing scale up for one of the programs, or almost done with the other. So now we're just waiting for the final results of, those studies. And then we'll package those INDs both in the first half of this year. And in parallel, we're preparing for the clinic. So we have a great chief medical officer who's hired a great team, and also a network of, CROs and outside consultants that are busy talking to sites and getting those sites up and ready. We don't want to start that process after the IND is approved.
Right.
We started that process months ago so that we're ready as soon as the IND is approved, that we can start, planning for the first patients to get treated. So that's what our focus has been. The company's been around 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
This has been and actually the people at Caltech were working on for many years before. This is the culmination of the work that's gone on for many years, is to get to this point to help patients.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always interesting to me to have a conversation around sort of that metering of the shape shifting of the growth of the hires, pre-IND. We need to put a clinical team into place. There's all this risk involved in that, right? Like planning for the next step and building for the next step. Give us some insight, advice, if you will, to aspiring biotech builders on that element of it, like obviating for the next step, being a step ahead, and embracing the risk of being ready for the next step.
Yeah, I think you have to have the passion for building, and you have to have the tolerance for risk, and you have to understand that innovation is not a straight line. It's usually like this. But as long as you're heading upward, then you're doing well. But if we're all fooling ourselves if we think it's going to be a completely straight line, no setbacks, that's just not reality. So I think it's a mindset that someone needs to have. You were asking about my career earlier. Even though it was a little bit different, it was the same kind of experience that I had at Lundbeck. So when we were building and taking on risks of developing products, licensing products, buying companies, all of those take risk. All of those have setbacks. You're building new capabilities. You have SOPs, you make some mistakes and you learn from those mistakes. It's all, very similar as, the capabilities we're building, building a clinical or regulatory team, building, moving from, a new phase of manufacturing, moving into the GMP scale. All of those are exciting, fun. There's challenges you run into that you have to overcome. And I think you have to be ready for that ride. And then the other thing I would say is, especially as a CEO, sometimes people expect the CEO to be an expert at everything. Yeah. I personally think the best CEOs are those that understand what they're expert at, and hire people who are expert at the things that they're not, and creating a clear strategy, creating a clear set of objectives and goals that they hold people accountable towards delivering, inspecting on what's happening, but at the same time, and holding people accountable, but at the same time, giving people the latitude to exert the expertise you hired them for.
Yeah.
and also, as a CEO to, be the biggest champion, storyteller of the company, chief fundraiser, all of those things. So for those who are interested in, a career as or aspire to become a biotech CEO, I think those are some of the thoughts I would share.
Yeah, no, they're all good thoughts. Now level with us and tell us what's not fun.
Well, the inevitable setbacks are not fun. The funding environment hasn't been fun, even though we've navigated it well. We're a 5-year-old company, and still the only equity round we raised was the original Series A. All the rest of the funding has come through pharma partnering, and we've been very successful at that. But, not having the kind of momentum in the macroeconomic environment and, kind of biotech, or the momentum behind genetic medicines and gene therapy, those things haven't been fun.
Right.
But we've navigated through that.
Yeah. So what's on the agenda here at JP Morgan 25? And it's an interesting question to ask because, there's the obvious. Well, I'm here to meet with investors and find partners. But there's obviously nuance in the response that I get to that question. So specific to Capsida, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, we have a speaking slot at the conference, which is great.
Yeah.
And so it's, this is the biggest meeting of the year and kicks off the year, and couldn't be better timing for us because of the transition we're about to make from, preclinical to clinical. And it really is that transition, in addition to the presentation, that we're communicating here to pharma companies, to investors, about the progress that we made and getting these lead programs on the cusp of being in the clinic and treating patients. So it's mostly awareness building around the progress. We've always maintained and worked hard to maintain relationships with pharma companies, investors, et cetera, and make sure that they know what we're up to and the progress that we're making. I'm a big believer that you don't just show up to somebody when you're looking for something, whether it be a partnership or an investment. I think, telling our story, building awareness, creating a base of knowledge for those communities of what we're up to just makes it so much more easy when there is something specific or tangible that you're working on, whether it be with pharma companies or with investors. So it's mostly awareness building about, as you used, a phase shift, that the pretty significant one we're about to embark on.
Yeah, very cool. I want to ask another question about the meeting, the JPM meeting, right? Yeah. I was just having a conversation about this with a colleague of mine, and I've sat in on a number of them, and I see what happens on stage. And we were just having a sort of a speculative conversation about how important what happens off stage might be. So I'm curious if you can give our listeners some insight into the mechanics of that meeting. So I'm assuming you'll be presenting?
Yeah, I'll be presenting.
You'll be presenting. Now, did you bring, so you'll present, you'll do the pitch deck. You'll hope that you got all the right points, right? Like a lot of prep that goes into that.
Yes.
Now, did you bring like a support team? You got some more scientists, I call them propeller head folks who are going to, kind of take questions off stage. Like, what does that kind of look like?
Yes. So the short answer is yes. Our chief medical officer, our chief technology officer, and our chief research and innovation officer, as well as other members of the leadership team will be there. But they'll be part of the Q&A at the end. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting when you say off stage. My time on stage is total of 25 minutes, and we're here for 5 days.
Right.
So most of the action, for us, but almost everybody, is not even related to the specific conference. Yeah. It's the magnet, the conference that has attracted all these people that are here. So it's really outside of the conference that we're having, this conversation, talking to pharma companies, talking to investors, meeting with our current partners. We have the partnerships with AbbVie, Lilly, and CRISPR. So we're taking advantage of the fact that we're here and working with them, meeting with them, update on the programs, the progress, meeting with our own, investors. Mm-hmm. Since we're all in the same place, it's an opportunity to make sure to communicate and stay connected with our current investors. So it's that's how we're spending our time. And again, I think for everybody, most of the actions outside the conference.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, Stefan earlier talked about how it's like an 8 to 11 day. That's probably conservative.
Yeah, certainly it was yesterday. I mean, first night with all the receptions that most people have. A little quieter tonight, but busy all day long, and busy all day long tomorrow as well.
Yeah,
and then Thursday, and then kind of in the afternoon on Thursday, I guess. If I had hair, I would say I could let my hair down a little bit Thursday afternoon.
Yeah. Well, I wish you luck in the presentation. That's a great achievement, and I'm sure it'll go swimmingly. And I really do appreciate you taking time out of this super busy week to speak.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, it was fun. I wish you all the best with all your podcasts throughout the year.